I'm not doing this video to preempt anything. It's just something popped into my mind and I thought worth chatting about. And that is like our safety net and the attachment to relationships that either are toxic or just we've outlived or they're just no longer connections we wish to be in. Because to be honest, a lot of us, and I've been there myself, you stay in situations because you feel a lot of it is an obligation. You don't want to upset the other person. You don't want to disappoint them. There might be other parties involved in the sense of children. That makes it really, really complicated when you have children because, of course, you want to give them the most stable and best life you can. And a lot of people, they go through life keeping themselves absolutely miserable to keep a status quo. Now, there's another side to that as well. A lot of the time you can have like abusive partners. I think you often find those it's a weird dynamic. Even if you look at famous people, for instance, you often get when I'm talking about dysfunctional relationships, not like successful ones, because there are successful ones where you're not in competition with each other, you're thriving, you're uplifting each other, you both go in the same direction. It's quite beautiful. I think those are the ones we should be striving for. But the other dynamics, where there's a jealous partner, someone obviously they're envious, they don't, they're always in competition. That's not healthy. That's not healthy in any way. And I think when you have that dynamic, you often get the one that's successful and the other one that's just jealous as hell, and they just keep trying to cause aggravation in your private life. But again, who needs that crap? So yeah, from my side, because I'm not here to sort of attack people. It's up to them. It's up to people with the relationships they're going, isn't it? They don't have to justify. But I think I'll be honest. People should be just honest with themselves though, because uncertainty is. I've noticed that in a lot of people, is uncertainty is their biggest fear. So the idea of being alone is it's like almost like worse than getting bit by a shark. They just can't handle it. People just can't handle the notion that they would have to be vulnerable and literally their only life vest is themselves. It's terrifying for a lot of people. I'm alone. I've been alone for 8 years. You can survive. It's all right. And you actually start to find your value, your confidence, your strength. You start to realize a lot of things you maybe not even just relied on someone else to do. Maybe you had the support of them. So it weren't like you was asking them to do it, but maybe you felt stronger as a union. You felt stronger as two against of the world, if you like. You start to realize that a lot of those situations you can overcome yourself. It's not so scary. It's obviously there's hardships, there's turmoil, there's a transition period with anything. Anytime we go through a change in life, it's overwhelming for sure. But all we can do is like I've always said, you just put one foot in front of the other. That's all you can do. Is think of life like I always say chapters of a book, but if you think of it this way, think of it like checkpoints. Just think of it like checkpoints. It's scary at first if you're vulnerable, you're alone. It's like there's so much change and there's so much consequence. Especially in tangible things. So, for instance, if you leave a relationship, for instance, you've got not only the person you're leaving, maybe there's a bit of toxicity between the two of you, or it'd be nice if you can leave amicably, but it's very rare, isn't it? And then you've obviously got the opinion of those around you. Maybe they don't agree. Maybe they like them. Maybe they felt you should have just put up with it. Because a lot of people just settle in life. And it's like, no, I want more for me. Thank you very much. I appreciate your concern, but let me just live my life. And then later on, maybe they see you're happy and it justifies itself. But in the end, we're not looking to justify to anybody, are we? I'm of the notion that if people are not for me, then they're against me. And it's like, I don't have time for that. So you either just accept who I am or just go your own way. And it doesn't have to be like bitterness. It's just like you do you, I do me. Don't worry about it. You either understand me or you don't understand me, and it's fine because I don't have time to keep explaining shit. I know where I'm heading in life. I know what I want, and I know the hardships I'm going to go through. I know how difficult my life is going to be, and I know I do a lot of that myself. And it's like I accept that because I have my ambition and I know where I'm heading, and it's like I'm going to get there either way. So, like, if I have to go through a lot of obstacles, if I have to be alone for heavy periods, if my finances have to be crippling, if it has to be the point where people perceive you as weak, if you like, vulnerable, chaotic, your life's uncertain, all these little things, these are their projections. You can project whatever you want. I always explain, I'm proud of myself, I'm not happy, but that's fine. In periods, that's okay, and I think you have to make peace with that. You can't expect to go through life, and I think it's very naive to think you can, the whole way through incredibly happy. Like just skipping through life like you're on a rainbow. It's like, unfortunately, life is going to deal you some curveballs. even if that's your intention, and even if if you had the best of intentions, it's not always going to work that way. So some things are going to test you, and then it's a question of what does you actually want for yourself? Like, what do you want for yourself? Not what someone's projecting onto you, not what someone's expecting of you. What do you want? And that's literally how I go through life. I have a goal in mind, and I'll achieve it. So effectively, and my life has never been governed by money, but at this point, I think I deserve something. So I've been selfless in my pursuit, like not only of my dreams, but in trying to uplift other people. I've shared my journey. I've been absolutely transparent, um, and I feel like what I do, if the right people hear it and they're prepared to listen, I think it can help change their lives. It will help them see from a different perspective, and I think for that, yeah, I should be rewarded. I think for that, I shouldn't be struggling like I am, and that's where sometimes I get really frustrated. But it doesn't change the fact that I'm on the path I'm on, and I'm not deviating from it. So yeah, overall, I expect to see results in the end, because I think when you have an innate talent, gift, something in you that is your driving force, but it's something that's like maybe sets you apart from other people. I think it should allow you a level of freedom in your life. So I expect freedom in my life on many areas in the future. I don't think, for instance, I think the path I'm living, if you look at it, it's not lending me to work so hard in the future, because I've worked hard in heavy periods to allow the freedom in my life. And I think sometimes that's what we got to do. Sometimes there's a level of sacrifice for a period, but you do it for a greater cause. So later on, the plan is that I don't have to work so hard, so then I have more freedom in my life to choose the paths I want. So maybe the doors that open, the opportunities, the collaborations, all sorts of things, but I'll get to pick and choose the projects. And then also I have room to travel, where a lot of people just don't have that in their life. So I've had to forego, if you like, the currency of money to build myself up ready in anticipation for the life that I want to live. And it's self-made. And it's kind of like I did that alone without the weight of someone pulling me down. And I think sometimes dynamics can literally do that. Like I said, they either anchor or support. And I think during the period where I've needed to be a bit, you could call it unhinged, unpredictable, but let's go unpredictable more. I think the period where I've had to be unpredictable, I think in all honesty, I had to be alone, because there's certain parts of times of our life, I think, where we need to adapt. And it's not only the fact that someone would be putting pressure on us during those periods. I think we would naturally feel maybe guilty, obligated. I couldn't be in a relationship watching someone suffer, not doing anything about it. If it's through a consequence of my action, that'd be a really hard situation to be in, to just like know that you're anchoring them. So I think to me, to be honest, I think there's periods of our life where I think it's healing to be alone. I think we find ourselves, but we pursue our dreams. And I've given myself that window. So if someone sees you've been alone for 8 years, they probably can't even comprehend it. Like, how the hell could you not have had like an intimate connection with someone? How could you have not been in a relationship? How the hell could you go that long alone? Well, it's funny how the days just fall into each other. You don't sort of sit there and go, I'm gonna go a lifetime like this. That's not the plan. It's one foot in front of the other. We just keep going through the checkpoints. I had about 4 years where it was just heavy focus on my daughter, because we was going through family court. Then it was the adaptation after family court. You're trying to just establish what we've got now. What's the dynamic? What's our circumstance? We're trying to, and then after that, it's like relocated. So then I'm trying to obviously balance between our time together, get traditional jobs, and of course working on my projects. It's just trying to figure things out. Really, it's not a case of you just go, oh, I just want to be alone forever and I never want to be in a relationship. It's not the case at all. It's just funny how life just keeps pushing forward, and there's always something to be working on. There's something in the way. And sometimes connections just don't work out for whatever reason, you know. Um, so that, so there is that side of things. But it's like I'm ready now. My heart is open. I'm ready for the right love, the right person. I know my expectations in life now, so I can articulate that to someone, because like this is how I see it all. Like, it's all about a safety net, but I think it's also about like having a supportive partner, someone who understands. You're in it together. I'll say briefly how I see not just relationship, but like the responsibility within a relationship, if you like. It's, So anyway, I did a recent video. If you was wealthy, what would you do with the money? There's something I've always thought of doing if I was wealthy, and this is really important, because in all honesty, I keep saying I don't care about money. Of course, I want money to a degree. It's insufferable. I've been poor for a long time. I can cope. Even if I had to go poor the rest of my life, I still continue. Like if I had to live the life I am now, I would. If that wasn't the case, I would alter, wouldn't I? I'd deviate. So I get fed up sometimes writing the books, and sometimes they don't. They're not as successful as I think they should. Is it going to stop me continuing the projects? No. So I'm still going to continue the path I'm on, aren't I? But yeah, there'll be jobs in between to keep me going, to make it more sustainable, make it more livable, if you like. But if I had a relationship, for instance, then I would alter slightly because I'd want to give them a stable foundation. So I would try to make it a bit more practical for the both of us, for their benefit. I think there's always a little bit we can do for people, you know. But if I was actually wealthy, I've always felt this quite strongly in my heart that I would put, like, if you're wealthy, I'd put a significant amount of money in the other person's bank account, and I would say, that is not for you to touch today. That is for you to be free at any moment you choose to. So I don't want you to ever feel you're stuck with me. I wouldn't want you to feel like if you left, you have nothing. So you're staying with me for money. And the right person, of course, wouldn't really want it, but they're going to have it anyway. And then that's always there. So if it got horrible for any reason, because you can't predict the future in that sense, relationship dynamics, sometimes they can fade, sometimes they can enhance and become really strong and healthy, but you can't guarantee it. And I wouldn't want someone to be with me for the wrong reason. So I'd rather save both of us time by giving them the out if they choose it, and the money's there. They can literally, I don't know where life's going to take me. I don't know if it's going to be abroad. I'm happy enough to stay in England, but if I have to go abroad, then so be it, And it's just because I'm pursuing my dreams, wherever that takes. Of course, if you're in a relationship, they're going to have an input too. But overall, it could be the case of you had another country, they can fly back, they can buy themselves a house. You can just go back and you can rebuild, and you've got a foundation to build from. I think that's really important. For me personally, that's important. Maybe they never use it, maybe they do. Yeah. So anyway, there's that side. But then there was what else we're going to go there? I think it's important that we are. I think it's important that people support each other. So you have to try and, rather than think about what it is you want all the time, it's like, what's the other person want and need? Like, what is it you want for your life? Because the thing with me is, I would never put pressure on someone to be anything they're not, and I think that sets me apart from other people because I do watch people. I'm innately aware of the external pressures. I hate that. I really do. So if I was in a relationship and my partner, for instance, they wanted to leave their job, and they said, look, this is killing me. I can't stand this anymore. It's making me so miserable. As soon as I hear that, I'm like, I will not allow you to be miserable. I don't care. We can sell everything. We can lose everything. What is it you need? That's what I'm like. And if they say that, if it's a case of I've got a passion and I really want to sort of like spend my time doing, you know what? You just spend your time doing that. You do you. Because maybe there's going to be times when it's like, I'll sacrifice for a bit. It's not about like someone supporting me through my dreams. It's like, you know what? I've had time doing my thing. You do your thing while I go. You put some time into you, and that's how I am. It's like I think that's what it's about. It's what I'm looking for in a relationship is someone that's prepared to go deep. Like when life's hard, can you dig deep or do you run? That's what I want. It's like no, you can't guarantee life's always going to be perfect. It's just not always going to be like that. There's going to be ups and downs, and it's like, if you're going to run when time gets hard, it's like that's no good for me at all, because it's like, why would we want that? And that's to each their own. It's not to say that's like, it's up to people. We're all our own. This is the thing I don't think people realize. They get in connections and they feel like they feel so bound and obligated to someone or passionate about them, not recognizing that we are all the main character of our lives. So it doesn't matter what relationship I'm in, or even the children I birth, all these things. I'm still the main character of my life, my journey. That's the whole point of me being here. None of us are supporting characters. Some people minimize their journey to become a supporting character, and that's what they do for themselves. And they feel they're of service to people. You can be of service to people, but still be the main character. So it's really important you don't minimize yourself, your journey, and what it is that you want for your life. So I wouldn't want someone to feel like they have to put their life on hold for me. It's just understand that the decisions I make, there's often there's a reason for it. There's a bigger picture. But I think in that sense, communication's key. And I think, like I say, from the beginning there, I think people stay, a lot of the time, they stay in relationships because they feel it's the right thing to do. It's an obligation. But if people don't have those same, I wouldn't say ideals, but if you don't have the same like morals, you don't have the same respect for each other, I find it really hard to sustain a dynamic like that. Um, I've got to just clear this table a little bit. It's a bit messy. I get dry skin. It drives me crazy. Um, yeah. Anyway, so if I draw upon my previous relationship, for instance, it's like some people play the victim game quite heavily, and you feel sorry for them, and that's what my ex partner did. So they were quite lazy a lot of the time, and I put it down to their mental health. You just you're giving them a lot more leeway, if you like. So you're taking on a lot more of the. Effectively, it's not 50-50 in a relationship. It's like it's very the balance is completely out of whack. They're not taking responsibility, accountability for things. They weren't helping support with things. You know, I'm doing all the cooking all the time. I've always said that. I would love to be in a relationship where you cook together because it's like literally time together. You know, why not? Why not make it an experience rather than make it an obligation and a chore? What's the point of life being a chore like that? Just make things interesting. You know, you can have fun in the kitchen. You can flirt with each other. You can do things. You know, it can be fun. It doesn't have to be. Life doesn't have to be bleeding serious all the time. You know. But sometimes you get stuck with people like a wet flannel. They're just boring as shit, and it's like, God damn. But you don't think that at the time, do you? Because you're in love with them. Even though if someone says, "What is it you love about them?" It's really hard to come up with something, isn't it? It's like, um, I don't. It makes me feel happy. A lot of time, it's just the way you feel, isn't it, rather than a quality they have. And sometimes that can come down just to a genuine attraction with them. It's like if you talk about qualities, it's hard to come up with absolutes. But yet again, there's like with my situation, you've got children, so you're trying to maintain a status quo. And the one thing I've learned in that situation is, I'll put the fan on. The one thing I've learned in that situation is that it's actually, I personally think it's healthier for your children to see you happy, I think confident and thriving on your own. I think that's just more empowering to them to sort of know that you have effectively how you're living is going to be something that your children are likely to reflect to a degree. So if you're miserable in a relationship and you stay there out of obligation, there's a good chance your children will find themselves in a similar situation in their future. But yet, if you say, "Look, I wish this would work out, and we've tried our best. This just isn't working." It doesn't always have to be like someone else is to blame. It could be you're to blame. It could be both. Just things aren't working. It doesn't have to be so, toxic, but it can be a situation. I think if your children then see you set high standards in your life, I'm just going to talk about me because there's no point keep deflecting and going around in circles here. Let's just say from my point of view, like what my daughter's seeing, and I see how she's building her life, right? She's seen her mum jump straight into a relationship, which is how all the chaos began in the first place. So she abruptly took her out of school one day and just literally relocated her. I then got accused of emotional abuse to justify her decision because she'd been having like mental health issues, quite deep mental health issues. And of course, if you take your it was I already preempted all this, so it was I didn't expect it to happen. So when it happened, it was like shit. My heart just dropped. Everything just froze. Like my whole world's just been shattered. Like what the hell do you do? So then I've had to go and get a solicitor. But upon talking to them, like I was piecing it together myself, and I knew what was coming because it didn't make sense any other way. It's not hard to predict something like that, If you've got a situation where you've got severe mental health issues, and it's been quite recent, and you've left that my daughter's been like, for instance, she kept going away weekends, and she kept leaving my daughter in my care. So in that instance, how on earth could I be like either an unreliable parent or an unsafe parent? It doesn't make sense. You couldn't say that about me. So what could possibly? This is how my mind was working. So I'm going to explain it here now. How could you justify doing what you've just done? How could you possibly justify it? It doesn't make sense. You're the one with the issues, and it's going to seem really impossible for you to safely look after her. So I knew immediately she's going to have to accuse me of something because it's the only way it makes sense. In fact, we had an argument. If we just go here briefly, and it wasn't trying to be horrible. It's just a true reflection of the relationship, like where we're at and the dynamic thing. I'd asked my daughter where she wants to. We was having a bad time for a few months, so I eventually asked my daughter, like, she was 6, just about to turn 7, so she's quite mature though for her age. And I said, like, if me and mummy weren't together, well, who would you want to live with? Like, and I said, there's no right or wrong answer. And I wasn't pressuring her. The way I'm saying it there now is how I'm saying it. She knows she can say me anything. And she said, I want to be with you. Like, and she genuinely, I don't say these things for effect. I've got no reason to. So she chose me. And I'm like, well, she's also got a half sister, by the way. I just don't include her a lot of the time because obviously it just deviates too far. We're just going to stick to the main people. So, of course, I'm thinking, okay, but you still got to keep your relationships. Well, but I suggested, like, what if maybe because at this point, there's none of this running off shit to the other end of the country. We're just in the same home. At that point, I think we was taking it in turns because like we just couldn't be in the same bed together. I couldn't even be near her mum. So I would sleep in the front room. And in the end, I was telling her, you're going to have to sleep in the front room sometimes. You can't be acting like a princess here because this is ridiculous. Because she was she's like that, it all has to be about her. And it's like, you've been selfish the whole relationship. I'm not putting up with this. So she had to start going in the front room sometimes and I'd have the bed. It's fair, isn't it? So I said to my daughter, like, who would you want to live with? And she said me. And then I said about, like, what if we did 1 week with me and 1 week with your mum? And she goes, yay. She's happy with that. Like, really genuinely. So I was like, right, okay. So I tell my partner and then partner, and she was fine with that. At first she's like, why did you ask about me? And I said, well, I've asked you so many times because we're going to have to deal with it. You keep deviating. Do you know what I mean? She doesn't take action. She's one of those that where she will literally just pick up and go. Like she doesn't, for some reason, she doesn't like dealing with shit. She couldn't even have the guts to say it to me before it happened. Do you know what I mean? Like to the level that it was going to play out. So yeah, that's really where that was going. And yeah, she abruptly took her away, did what she did, and I knew then that you're going to have to accuse me of something here, because we had a conversation on the sofa about a week before, I think it was. Well, it might even been the Friday. She took a Monday. I think it might have even been in the Friday. It was that mental. She said I can't remember who started the conversation now. No, I think maybe I did. I can't remember. Like I said, I can't remember how it went around. It's in my book, but it said about like the fact that she said, because I said about her, like living with me, like if we had to go to court. I said because I can't remember how I was getting around that, but she said, no, you're a great father. And then she said, what about me? And I said, well, if you can step up and start looking after the children, do dinner, do bathing them, do take on the responsibilities. I said 50-50, we can do it. She got really angry at that. But it's like, mate, you can't just pretend you do shit. I'm doing it all the time. You're sitting on your ass. I come home. I'm the one. You're sitting on your ass. I'm picking the kids up from school every day. I take them to school. I'm the one picking them up. They see me. I then bring them home. I then do the dinner. I'm then doing the baths and stuff. I mean, she did the baths sometimes. But overall, I'm doing the routines here. We have dinner. I'm sitting with the kids having dinner. She's sitting on the sofa. It's like, I'm spending time interacting with the kids. She's sitting in the garden. It's like, you can't act like you was there all the time when you was always distant, And it's like, so like the idea that they go through family court, if that's where we're heading, and you're not going to have something against me, because you're going to have something very strong at this point, because all they have to do is ask our daughter, who has been there for you growing up, and it wasn't really going to be a shock who she's going to say. Let's be realistic. So obviously something was coming. So now I got slapped with emotional abuse. The fact that I was manipulating our daughter, but also causing distress to her and also like my ex and shit. I was like, you're having a freaking laugh. She even accused me of headbutting her, and I was like, yeah, she's outrageous. I said, she's just absolutely nuts. Apparently, and I'll say it publicly, I don't give a shit what people think of me. There was none of this shit. There's none of this. There's never ever been a police report. We've got all the proof there. There was no police report. There's been no social services involved. There's been absolutely no issue at the school. The school have got no record of any incidents happening. Literally, there's no agency has anything. I have no criminal record. There's nothing. It's just absolutely obscene. It's just stupid statements. And it was like, but they hurt, They hurt. And at first it's worrying because like, how the hell do I defend it? Then I started getting evidence which backed up, because there was one where she actually, within a message maybe a few years before, she said she'll make a false allegation against me because we was having an argument. And I was like, well, that's harsh. She goes, well, I can if I want. And it's like, that shows the pettiness in them, you know? In the end, my solicitor said, I wouldn't even worry about it. It's like, you can't prove a double negative. It's up to them to prove without a doubt that you did those things. I was like, oh, well, I didn't, so they can't have anything, can they? And I didn't. We had 18 months of this shit. I don't want to divert too far because this has gone completely off track. 18 months through family court. It just dragged on and on and on. And a lot of it was because of the false allegations against me. It kept holding it back, sending us backwards, because she only had to say the odd thing that I'm doing wrong or something else, or an accusation, and it set us back. Can't see my daughter this time. You know, we're back to square one. Then I contest it, and all of a sudden she drops her claim. It's like all the time, back and stop, start, stop, start. It's like, you're a joke. You know, so but by the end we got to like a year, just over a year in. It was like July, I think about July of 2018. She had to produce evidence now. We was getting to the end. You now have to provide evidence to back up your claims of abuse, or we move on, because this is the one thing. That's the one thing, like holding things up in a sense. Like how volatile am I? How unpredictable am I? Like what is, you know, you're going to have to prove this now, because it's going to be, we're going to have a final decision on what's the situation here. And I kid you not, it was embarrassing. It was truly embarrassing. They had nothing. They wanted to have, the only thing they had, which was absolute nonsense, was their daughter. So my daughter's half sister. They wanted her to take the stand as an 11-year-old, I think it was. And everybody, even my solicitors, even I don't even think her solicitors were too happy, but the judge was absolutely not having it. He said, I'm not putting a child through this, because, you know, in every event, it's likely they'll just do whatever you want them to do. And I'm like, all right, you know. She actually wrote a letter to there was a guardian involved to speak up for my daughter, and the way it was worded was obviously her grandmother, and she just wrote it out. It was just obvious to me, and it just showed, you know, it's like, this is ridiculous, but everybody else sees it as them, and it's like, that's not them. I know the relationship between all the parties, you know, it's not the case at all. And the reason I'm showing all this is to show people how toxic it can get towards the end. It gets bad. It gets bad. So like, for instance, my ex-partner had absolutely nothing on me. If she can't have her daughter, she wants her new partner, who she's considering her best friend. It's not my partner. Even my daughter's told me they're engaged, but still, friend. Um, Laughable, because when exactly the day after family court, when family court concluded, the next day he moved in with them. Friend. I was always laughing about in court about it. I was like, you're joking, but you can't even admit it. You can't admit one thing because you can't stop lying. Even the most obvious and apparent thing, you could not tell the truth. You know, even if you've got electric shock treatment, you still wouldn't do it. It's just mad how people lie. So none of it makes sense anyway in the end. So they couldn't have the boyfriend because, like the judge said, well, to be honest, again, he's just going to say what you want him to say, and I'm nodding. Yeah. What do you think was going to happen? Jesus. Do you know what I mean? It was all nonsense. So she had absolutely nothing. It was all just wild claims. And it took us over a year to get to that point. And I already knew every time I was getting accused of something, every time the judge was giving me a funny look, every time her solicitors were painting me as this terrible, abusive lunatic. That's how they kept doing it. And I'm just like, you're crazy. At one point, I did speak up. We was in this room. I had, because sometimes my barrister would change. It just depends who's available. And we had Kafkas in the room who do this children's support. And then we had my ex's solicitors in the room. My ex wasn't involved because she kept trying to miss appointments at the beginning. It's like she just didn't want to be there. She couldn't face her liars, you know. You could say she couldn't face me, but because she knew she was lying. So I was in attendance with her team and this. And I just got sick and tired of hearing it. All I kept hearing was about like how bad I am, you know, the fact that I would run off with our daughter if I saw her and all this shit. And I spoke up. I said, right, I've had enough of this shit. I said, I'm not here to do anything stupid. I said, I'm not reckless like her. I said, I have more of a long-term view than her. If I do anything bad, like if I was to take my daughter, for instance, it's only going to set us back. It's going to cause more trauma to her and it's going to delay progress. I said, I'm not here to do anything stupid. I'm here to win her. I intend to get her home in the end. I said, make no doubt about that. I'm here to get her home. And I said, I haven't done any of the shit you lot keep saying I've done. So you can keep saying it, but it's not facts. My barrister just smiled. She's like, yeah. She was well proud of me. She was well happy. I just thought, I've had enough of this shit. You can only tell. This is why court's hard when you keep hearing negative said about you, because you can't say anything about it and they talk like it's true, you know? And it's like, none of that's true. And in the end, she couldn't even back any of it up. It's just an absolute joke. And it's just sad how toxic it gets, you know? Because what people probably don't realize throughout most of that is it took me, like, we separated the end, well, my daughter was born in April, so it was like a few days before her birthday. So towards the end of April, even up to about November, I still loved her. It was torture for me. I was crying a lot. I was like, my mind's all over the place, you know? I've got two sides of my mind just fighting against each other. I'm fighting for my daughter, but I don't want to upset or hurt my ex-partner. I wanted her to come home. You know, my family at that point absolutely despised her. You know, she blocked numbers. She didn't even let us say, any of us say happy birthday to my daughter. You know, there's a lot of things. But I was still like, she's my queen. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, at that point, I'm still like, she's my queen. She's just having a breakdown. She's just something, I don't know what's going on, but she's not behaving as she normally was. Like, and I was putting it down to everyone else. You know, if she's met someone, he's obviously coerced her. He's made her do this. He's put loads of shit in her head. Now, anytime there's like an issue, they're obviously looking at it from a different angle. It's like, I know they'll see sense. I know they'll see sense. Now, of course, we was having problems before, but you don't know the extent of like how it got there, you know, because it was sad. It's sad how I think our relationships end, to be totally honest. Because I truly loved her, and I was so supportive. I was so protective of her, you know. But she was just so distant a lot of the time, and I think maybe that's the sign that it's breaking down in hindsight, you know, because we took the kids. I had to write a letter to the school one time because we got evicted one time, 2025. No, 2015. Well, the end of 2015, we got eviction notice. So 2014, around about December, we had to be out just after Christmas, New Year's time sort of thing. But that was a hard time for all of us. And, you know, we had to go and live at my mum's home. And yes, it was a whole like 9 months of that. It was so hard. She had a breakdown. Like she had to go to get, I don't want to talk too much on her, to be totally honest. But we went to like a caravan holiday for just weekend. I'm not sure if that was weekend or week because we did two. We went for one for a weekend and we went for a week. I think it was the week because we asked the school. So effectively, I wrote to the school because you're not allowed, obviously, term time off. And I explained the situation. Like, my stepdad's got cancer because this is all what happened, you know. This is why it's all sad. Like, my stepdad had cancer, why she did all this shit to me. He died while we was going through family court. It's just sad, isn't it? I feel like it hastened it. I don't want to put that pressure on someone, but he declined rapidly during that period. It's sad. You can't get that back. But anyway, so back in 2015, I've wrote to the school and I've just said, look, he's got cancer. We're homeless because we've had to go and live here. She's having a real terrible time of it. It's sufferable for everybody. Like, we're trying to make do, but we've never had a family holiday. Like, it's been hard. And they agreed for us to have the week off school. And apparently, like, I think my daughter told me if she even spoke about it recently, actually, the teachers are actually crying when they read the letter. So you don't realize how bad it is, I guess, in yourself. You just know it's heavy and you're trying to make the way through it. But it was just sad because we've gone all the way to this holiday place. It's about 3 hours in the car, I think 4 hours. And they're still not happy, you know. Like, the kids are happy. We're getting them little lightsaber things. They're messing about in the dark. You go into this little clubhouse things. You can have a little drink. They can have their little pop drinks. They can go and dance on with there's like a music. There's entertainment. There's people performing on stage. They can dance, go crazy. We take them swimming. You can take them down to the beach. Like, this is great. I'm enjoying it. I even got one of those go-karts and we're pedaling around on those. They're exhausting as shit. So, like, we're enjoying it, but she's not. And it's like, I don't know what can. Sometimes it's a case. I don't know what can make you happy. I genuinely don't know I don't know how to fix this. Which is why I say now that if I was able to give someone an out, I'd rather they just take the out. So if I'd rather you had the money to leave. It's not nice. It's just not a nice feeling to not be, I think, feel valued. Like, I put a lot on. I sacrificed a lot for that relationship, you know. And I know what it's like to be sort of like lied about. I know what it's like to be disrespected. You know, there's every chance that I'm missing certain signals, you know, and I can only say it from my side. Like, as we was having issues, I knew she was seeing someone. I even pulled her up. I said, I know you're seeing someone. And she goes, no, I'm not. And I said, this is your chance to be honest with me, though, because I think you are. And she said, no, I'm not. And it was that day, I think, or just around that period. She said, "There's so much I want to say to you." I could say it then. She said, "It's too late," and I was like, "Well, I'm here. Why don't you just tell me what?" She wouldn't do it. So now I don't care what that is anymore. Like that's for them to hold on to. They may have that may still weigh on them today, and they may want to get off their chest. But to me, it was like that was your chance to speak up. Don't be weak in the moment. I don't know what the hell it was. So maybe there were things that I should have been working on because like we're not all. This is the part that people don't get. Like, I know I'm not perfect, but I know I'm far more evolved than I was back then. But I wasn't abusive and I wasn't horrible. I was dealing with a stressful situation. So yeah, my stress levels were high. Um, Maybe I got frustrated quickly, but I was never physically violent with people, and I didn't try to bring people down. I'm just trying to deal with a terrible situation. Like my chest is hurting. This is the thing that maybe on one side, maybe you come across as not nice in that situation, but people don't see the whole circumstance. You know, I don't want to talk about it with my ex, but she was really, really challenging. Like she's threatening to leave and go on to train tracks and all sorts of shit. She's very dangerous in her mind. And there's a lot of situations: stand in the kitchen with a knife, sit in the garden with things to tie. I'm not going to go into all that shit. That's psychologically damaging. You're on edge all the time. You're trying to keep stability and normality in the children's lives, trying to shield them from it. Meanwhile, you're trying to keep this person alive. And this is where I come around when I said the other video yesterday when I spoke about the fact that when it all went to shit, I was like in tears. And the doctor said to me, like, you've been there for others, but who was there for you? And it was like, that's when the penny dropped. Like, no one. I was the one. I was always, and again, I'm hoping we talk about this will show people the other dynamics within their relationships, because I'm sure if anyone going through similar is going to reflect upon this. I've just thrown myself well off there. There's just a lot of sacrifices made to do that. I'm sort of like giving up any career opportunities. I'm only half of who I am, but I'm having to be that half for everybody else, if you like. So I'm trying to do the best I can with the time I have. I'm trying to be like supporting her, whatever she needs. I'm trying to be there. I'm being there for the children, but I'm struggling to invest in me. So although that chaos broke my heart and it tore our family apart, even with the separation to my daughter, which really has, believe me, is hard as hell. And I think anyone that's seen my journey will know how much it breaks my heart. I also know when it comes to my growth, it's been a blessing in disguise. It has. And if in all honesty, I couldn't go back from being the version I am today to the version I was before, because I was stressed a lot. I was like struggling. My chest was hurting like crazy. I was laying on the bed sometimes and I'm in pain. My chest is hurting. It's like I'm pushing myself. I was pushing myself to the edge of my existence, trying to keep this dynamic afloat. It was hard as hell. And then it's compounded by the absolute onslaught I had to go against through family court. That was pushing me everywhere. That was so hard, especially the physical side, because there's so much traveling. But who I am today is, I guess, in some way, is a consequence of that. It made me look it within. It made me go solo rather than invest all that. So how I am today, if you just look at me today and you look at what I've done with the books, with the healing journey, with the way I share it, my outlook on life, what people need to understand is that's exactly what I was doing for my ex-partner. Everything I am doing for me is what I was doing for her. And she never appreciated it. She took me for granted and then blamed me for any of her problems. But instead of that, I've invested in myself. And I am even in awe of myself of how far I've gone. And it's like, this is crazy. So when you invest in yourself, you literally can catapult yourself so high, it's crazy. So don't invest in the wrong people is the point, isn't it? It's like, if something's outlived itself, let it go. And if something's going to uplift and inspire and support, I think then maybe consider it. But at the overall, it's like we should be our own hero, I think, personally. So our own support system. Support systems should come from within. And I don't think we should be so scared to have ourselves as support, because goddamn, we're powerful. And that's what I've seen for me. So with the wrong person, it actually slows me down, anchors me, and destroys me. Well, it can try to destroy me, never did. Nearly. Didn't. But, with me on my side, me going solo, I can be formidable and come against anything, up against anything, because I've got nothing anchoring me. My decisions are free. I'm free of mind, and I don't have to worry about the fallback and consequences and the effect it has on other people. So I can just like go, you know what, this is who I am, and I can take on an army. Well, the wrong person, I'm chained, anchored to a place, and now I'm vulnerable. And that person who you think's there to support you and join you on your journey literally turns against you, stabs you in the back, makes you weak. You're now vulnerable, and you're just open, ready to be like to be destroyed. So yeah, I mean, obviously not all relationships are that freaking bad. That one was, but the point there is, it's not every relationship's healthy, and I think sometimes we have to sort of we have to sometimes let things go. But I think also I do think some things could be worked out. So I think it's about like I think every situation's unique. If something could be healed and there's a love between two parties, then I think why not try to make it work? Of course, it takes two people to try to make it work, but everybody knows each other within a specific dynamic, don't they? Or whether someone's really putting the effort in, whether they're pretending to put the effort in, how committed they've been up to that point, whether you see a future. There's so many dynamics to it. But I don't see the point of wasting time in the wrong dynamic, personally. But like I said, if you can heal something, then try to heal it. But you don't want to get to the point where I got to, where you just left it so late. It was just chaos. It's just absolute chaos, and it just ruined all the memories. Because the thing that flipped in me, like I said, I got all the way to about November, where I was still like in love. I still loved them. They were my queen. Like they're my queen. I still felt I didn't even like hearing their cry. I didn't even want to know they were upset, because I wasn't trying to make them cry. Like I was doing everything I can to be fair, but she was always making it difficult, always offering the bare minimum or nothing at all. And I was like, why is she being so difficult? Don't be funny. A child is not a toy. She's not. It's not like it's not something you just use as bait. That's how she was behaving the whole way through. So my daughter was upset continuously, and that's what triggered. That's what ended up flipping everything in my head. I was so angry. Like, I've gone from you are my queen, now you are my worst enemy, because I took the time then to just I looked at the effect it's had on our daughter, all of this, the constant stop start relate contact and all these things, and seeing how like traumatizing it was to her. And I thought, no one ever does this to her. Least of all the person she should be able to like confide in, as someone who's supposed to protect her. Her mother. Her own mother is destroying her. Like, I know, when I had that revelation, I kid you not, a new wave just came over me. I've gone from wanting to protect her mother to wanting to absolutely annihilate her. It was now game on, and that's how it switched. I mean, I mentioned it in the books, and it was literally a switch. I've now gone from I wouldn't say I was being timid, because I was still doing the right things. But what I would say is, now I didn't care if you cry. Now I didn't care how you feel. And I don't even care if you have a breakdown anymore. It's not my fault. You've put us in this situation. You've caused a crisis. I'm gaining our daughter's freedom. And I'm here to fight for her, because she can't fight for herself. And that's literally how that went. So, yeah, she may have bad memories of me, and I'm sure she has. There's been incredibly spiteful messages between us, and I don't care if they surface. There's been some very spiteful messages between me and her since during family court, because sometimes I crossed the line. I'll admit that. I did cross some lines. And it was said that they even threatened to get a restraining order on me, which I thought was laughable, because it was like, you're having a giggle. I think that was because family court had finished, and there was a lot I wanted to say. And I was like, if you say it in the future and things calm down, you're going to look nuts. I thought, just say it now. I want to let it off my chest, because I've been held back through court. I just want to tell you what I think of you, tell you about the circumstances. And apparently she went mental. And then her solicitors threatened to get a restraining order. And I was like, well, you do what you want to do. I don't even want to be near her anyway. Do you know what I mean? There's been a lot of spite. Anyone's interested in that level, I'd put that in a heartbroken daughter to a degree. But yeah, there's definitely messages between us. I haven't spoke to her now for about 2 years, I think it is. I blocked her good and proper permanently now. I gave her a last chance she had. It was about, again, whenever that was. My daughter said, because my daughter's older now, she can handle things, teenager. She said, well, Mum said if you unblock her, she won't she won't sort of start causing havoc. Do you know what I mean? Like, because that's what she does. She always has to dig at me. You unblock her. She has to try to sort of like, she has to be like, say something condescending just to piss you off, you know? So as soon as I unblocked her, she did it. And I freaking thought, I just blocked her straight away. I just said, my daughter, I said that she'd do it. I said, I only unblocked her because she said she wouldn't. She did it again. She's done. And then my daughter's like, oh no. And it's like, yeah, your mum can't control herself, so I can't deal with her anymore. Like, that's it. We don't need to anyway. You're old enough. We can deal with we can deal with like travel arrangements together. We can talk. It's easy. You just tell me a date. That's the date. But yeah, we just can't communicate anymore. It's outrageous. There was times when like my daughter would sit, to be honest, because if it was it was a dynamic. My daughter's coming home. She's telling me things that are happening at home. Like, she's coming to spend time with me. She's telling me things that are happening at home. And it was always really horrible, Like, I started documenting in my book, the next book, but I'm not even going there because I don't want to keep digging into this. But there's a lot of things that happened, where, like, for instance, my daughter might get upset at school. She tells her teachers. The teachers don't even know me, so they make a prejudgment. Then her mum will come up to the school and act like, oh, don't, no, you're confused. Oh, sorry, I said the name. But she'll say she's confused. And it'll be a case of making her look like she's the lunatic. Meanwhile, there's like a sinister side to all of this. Look, at this stage, she's thinking of, and I'll say it now, and this is why I don't want to go into the book. I don't even want to write about it. My daughter was thinking of phoning Childline. She was asking me all sorts of questions. When we saw each other last time, she was really worried, and she said things, and I was like, well, look, it's too far for me to travel. It'll take me about 3 hours to get there if you ever have a problem. So I just said, only if it don't do it just to be horrible to someone or just to hurt them. I said only if you feel threatened. And there's a couple of times she came very close to. That's the level of like emotional abuse she was having at home. Where she was thinking of doing it, and I was explaining to her that in terms of family call, unless you get until you're a certain age and things, it's going to be impossible. Like, it's going to be hard because the way the system works. And I think as she got to about 14, she was still struggling, but I was like, well, the thing is, you've only got 2 years left now. So if you can get, it cost a lot of money to go for court. I don't know what I got. I don't know how I'm going to handle it. And you can't guarantee anything, but if we can get to 16, you can do what you want. It's only 2 years more. Plus you finish school. But I said, if you can't handle it, you tell me, and then I'll do what I got to do. But things have calmed down now. But that doesn't. But this is the thing, that people like that, they'd want you to forget the past. I never forget the past. So I know what will happen. You can't just like sugarcoat it and pretend that's fine, because I still know who you are under all the smiles and the little soft words you're trying to speak. I know what she's been through. She knows what she's been through. And I think it's just really sad that it's got to this point, And like for instance, with me, in terms of love and relationships, I have to get it right, because she needs someone like. I know I can handle everything on my own. And I know, like, as a role model, I'm a good role model for her. We have a beautiful relationship. But I also recognize it would be great for her to have a female role model where she can confide in on like personal girly things, the things that maybe I'm not really attuned to just talking about or something. And she just feels more comfortable. And I'd want her to have that, someone that she can really rely on and you genuinely trust. So even I have to get that right, and I take it serious. Hence why part of why I've been single for so long. But of course, I want to be attracted to someone. So it's a dynamic thing, but it's a whole host of things here. I'm not looking for someone. It has to be absolutely the right person. The standard is that high, because I won't have her suffer anymore. Now I don't expect people to have relationships to this degree, but what I would say is you just never know. Because even if you don't have kids, sometimes you've got to look and think, what would it be like if you had kids? And how would it end? That's the thing. Like, I wanted to be fair. Like, we were supposed to be, like, before all the chaos, if we were to separate, we had conversations before. And we agreed once a month we would go for a meal, because we used to go out for meals a lot often. We'd go for a meal once a month. Just the four of us, me, my daughter, obviously me, my daughter, my partner, and then her daughter. That just us. No, if we were any of us in relationships, it's just they don't come. It's just us. It's just us so the kids have this healthy, they get to, it's good. It's just good, and we agreed that. And then all of a sudden, all hell blows loose. That's not even an option anymore. And I just thought, that's crazy. And it's clearly because you met someone and it just destroyed the whole thing. And it's like, so I wasn't trying to be dysfunctional. It just ended up dysfunctional. But again, later in the journey, I played my part for sure because I fought fire with fire. Like it all kicked off. It all like burnt down in the end. It kicked off all over the place. Yeah, it did. If you look at me, I don't even regret a damn thing. I've got people on her side of the family sort of having digs at my daughter, making her uncomfortable, making her cry, genuinely. They're going out their way to make her feel uncomfortable. It's just ridiculous. All because she favors me and wants to be with me. All because of that. And then when I find out, I'm going mental. So I would send a message and I'd say, look, and I'm not putting up with this shit. And I'd say, if any of this shit happens again, we're going back to court. And I was warning her a lot of time, like, you keep this shit up. And I was having to educate her mother, saying, look, if you don't get your act together, you're not going to have much of a relationship with her in the future. And that's your fault. That's got nothing to do with me. How she feels about you is a reflection of the relationship you have with her. So you only have a very short window now before she gets to the point where she gets to decide her life. And if you do not get your act sorted and start prioritizing her, you're going to only have yourself to blame when you no longer have a relationship with her. So right now, it's your choice, the relationship you have. And I kept trying to do that with her. I kept trying to make her see sense. Stop trying to fight me. Focus on her, because I didn't want my daughter to not have a mother. That's the thing. So I'm trying. I could have just kept my mouth shut, stayed in the background, not done a damn thing, and she would have buried herself. I don't want that. I want her to grow up, to be the healthy parent that my daughter deserves. And then I have a fine balance to do too. It would be a lot better if I didn't talk about any of this stuff. And I admit that. I know that. Unfortunately, I've had to say to my daughter, and it is something I never thought I would. And I've had to say it to her a few times now. I said, unfortunately, the path I'm on is bigger than us. It just is. Like, I would rather not talk about anything. But if it's going to help change people's lives, then unfortunately, that's what I have to do. If people are too scared to tell their stories, if people are too scared to speak up, nothing in the world can change. So you could argue that's not really a topic you should talk about. Then who can? And then how do we raise awareness? So yeah, I would much rather keep this stuff personal. But unfortunately, I feel my path is not. It's not so black and white. It's not so easy. And if, for instance, people can heal from a situation that we've been through, then I think it's worth it. It's worth the upheaval. It's worth the chaos. But yeah, it just shows, doesn't it? You go in the wrong relationship, the wrong dynamic, your world can come apart quite quick. And yeah, so I think that's worth considering. Even if you go beyond relationships, you consider one night stands. Look at the abuse. Look at the accusation I got: emotional abuse. I got accused of headbutting them. Ridiculous. And then you could have people who go into sort of like one night stands and shit. How do you know where that's going to end up? Okay, you've got caught up in the moment, but you don't know what's going to happen the next morning. It's not worth, for me, that sort of shit isn't worth it. That can literally change your life forever for just one moment. I don't see the point. I'm more interested in a safe space where you trust each other and you respect each other, and you don't have to go down this crazy chaos path, because who wants that shit? If it weren't for my daughter, I would have just walked off. It's only because of my daughter that we had to go through that prolonged situation. But if it weren't for her, I would have just gone off. I don't give a shit what she says about me. You can do all that crap. I'm just going off and leaving you to nutty town. You just go and do what you're doing. I leave you alone to it. The one thing I would say though is, I always say this, and I don't fault her. It doesn't matter what she's put me through, in the sense that I would never regret any of the things I've done, even the sacrifices I made when her mother needed me. Because there's a period where she was in a facility just for a weekend because she was dangerous to herself. And in hindsight, if you go back, it's like 2 years or so before she took the kids. If you went back to that period, I could have easily gained custody of our daughter at that point. Now, I wasn't even thinking like that. I was in love with her. We were still together. It was like she was just going through a terrible crisis. There was mitigating circumstances with that, in the fact that she was actually, I don't know if I should say it, but she was sending images to someone. I didn't know about that. That person then started stalking them. I didn't know about that. So there's this side behind the scenes that was going on affecting her mentality that was self-inflicted, but I wasn't even aware of it. Meanwhile, I'm getting accused of being the reason why a lot of the time. And it's like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong because I'm trying to support you. I'm doing the kids. I'm trying to do this shit. It's like crazy. And then I get a family trying to blame me for shit because they don't know what's going on. It's like, mate, I don't know what's going on. She's telling me not to tell you because if I tell you, she's going to do something to herself. I'm getting emotional blackmail going on over here. You know, and meanwhile, she doesn't even like spending time at your home. How's that my problem? You know what I mean? I'm having arguments with her people because it affects the children. You know, so anyway, that's the chaos you can get into. So it's like, so if someone thinks, how come you've been single for so long? It's like, well, I'm not in a rush to go into nutty places anymore. I've had enough of that. I'm good. If you look at, like, forget how it's all been up to this point, check out some of my other videos and you'll see that I'm doing all right without that shit, to be totally honest. And yeah, I don't think about that on a regular basis. It's because I was thinking about the dysfunctional nature of people staying in the wrong circumstances. And I know people have even worse situations than I've been through. There's always going to be people that have it worse. There's going to be people that don't have it quite so bad, but they're still trapped. I don't think it's not about levels. It's about, are you free? Are you free in a relationship, or are you anchored down? And it comes down to that, doesn't it? Are you appreciated and respected or not? If you're not, there's no point because you're literally, the way I see that is you're doing it to yourself. A lot of time we have too much attachment to the material. So when you think about it, a lot of time leaving a situation, sometimes it comes down to, well, I've got to, I'm not going to lose all this. I've been building this. Sometimes it's a case of, yeah, but you've got to be prepared to reset. You can acquire things again. At least you gain your freedom. And I just think that's more important. Now, of course, you can always fight for some of the things you have. You might not have to lose everything, but I think you have to be prepared to lose something to gain your freedom. And I think, yeah, I think your freedom is everything, isn't it? Freedom of choice. So yeah, I wouldn't leave myself bound to materialistic shit at the expense of my freedom, because there's no way in hell. Because you just feel like a caged prisoner your whole life. Like you can't even do anything you want because something's got a hold of you. You release, you break the chain. You're now free, and the other stuff is meaningless anyway. It's replaceable. Of course, when it comes to your home, it's slightly more, I think, nuanced and difficult. But yeah, that solves itself as well over time. You just have to go through a period of transition, really. Anyway, that's my hellhole of a story, and it only covers part of it. Of course, there's always going to be deeper aspects that I didn't really want to go too deep into right now. Yeah, and that's been a chaotic period of my life, but that's in the past now. I've let that go. Especially the past 2 years, I put a block on the mother. I don't talk to her anymore. So even if she yaps about me, it makes no difference. Yap. You know, I just don't care anymore like people. If you see it as well, I'm just setting boundaries with a lot of people in my life as well, because it started with that one, and then you start looking at other people and you're just going, yeah, I don't need any of this walking chaos in my life anymore. So it's all about higher vibration, higher timeline people, really, and it's just better dynamics. Because I think, like I said, it's very hard to go through life without a challenge. It's very hard. We can dance all merrily across the rainbow, thinking we're all full of joy and happiness. But unfortunately, it doesn't matter how light and bright you are. Something's going to put a stop on that, and you're going to go through some things. And it's going to challenge every ounce of your being. So how do you cope with that? Because, like in my situation, it's not like I had a choice. I could, and I think a lot of people do. To be honest, they give up. That ain't an option. But you could give up. So if someone makes a false allegation against you, you could go within yourself and hide and worry about how the world feels about you. Could do. Or you could say, well, I know it's not true, so we don't give a crap what someone else thinks just because they want to believe the first person they hear. That's up to them. Second of all, it's a lot of it, the relationship and the dynamic with my daughter, it really is consistent. It depends upon this circumstance. So if I don't fight now, I may lose her for the rest of my life. Well, that's not an option, is it? So I'm charging after her. And that's literally what I did. So I had no choice. Of course, to charge after her, I'm having to fight against every accusation you can get. Every single person who wants to attack me with whatever, and it's like, you just do what you got to do. You don't know the force that's in me. You underestimate me. That's not a bad place to be from my point of view. So you teach them all a few lessons, and they all learn eventually along the way. And then you see me standing here strong, or sitting here strong, firm, confident in who I am. Yeah, I think I lead by example. Done quite well. Done quite well, Mion, I think.